Hello, I'm Dan.
I'm Simon.
And this is a special episode of the Wikicast, a podcast about random Wikipedia articles. Today, we're joined by a guest.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
That's going in.
Hi, I'm Tom Zalatnai. I'm the host and producer of the Up for Discussion podcast in Montreal, Quebec, and I'm also the executive producer of the Upford Network.
And what article are we talking about today, Tom?
You told me to hit random article, right? So I'm going to do that as we speak. And I can't find the random article button. One moment, please.
Like, loads of people ask us that.
It's
Like, how do you generate random articles?
Yeah.
There's literally a button. It's just on the left-hand side.
Okay, I found it. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, so here we go.
The
random article today, guys, is Egnatius Lucillianus.
That sounds Roman. Ignatius Lucillianus?
Looks like maybe. Ignatius Lucillianus, circa 210 to 244, was a governor of Legatus of Britannia Inferior at Iberacum, a province of Britannia, sometime between 238 and 244.
Ah,
So he was a governor of Britain,
Yeah.
a part of Britain.
yeah.
Wow. So, okay, well, we've already checked off a few things on the Wikicast bingo. We've butchered pronunciation of another language.
Amazing.
We've already, we should probably actually talk about the article a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, before we get on to, because obviously the real reason we brought you here, Tom, is for your sparkling conversation.
Sure.
And what you can bring to the podcast. But I mean, what I really want to hear you talk about right now is Ignatius. What was
Lucillianus.
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 Yeah.
Sorry, silly me. I mean,
Come on, man.
what can you tell me
Keep
about
up.
him?
It has been speculated that he was the son of Lucius Ignatius Victor Lollianus. However, a relationship between the imperial gens Ignatia and Ignatius Lucillianus has been described as very doubtful.
Okay, so we
Right.
don't really know where he came from. So,
Yeah.
why did you say he was governor of?
He was the governor of Legatus or Britannia Inferior.
Britannia
The Wikipedia
Inferior.
page says little else is known of him, although he seems to have been involved in the rebuilding and expansion of the fort of Durham, along with his predecessor, another name I get to butcher, Macilius Fuscus.
Rebuilding of Durham. I reckon Britannia Inferior must be the north then.
Yeah, so, Britannia Inferior, or Lower Britain, was the province carved out of Roman Britain in around AD 197 during the reforms of Septimus Severus. So it would have been I guess an extension of Londinium, the original settlement for London.
Yeah.
Southern England. And then they would have made was there a Britannia Superior, I guess?
I guess.
The Wikipedia page for Britannia Inferior says, including much of modern northern England, as well as the area that is now Wales.
Okay.
Okay, so it's basically the bits of the UK that are underdeveloped.
Yeah.
by modern, the UK government tends to forget that those bits of the UK exist. Oh, fun.
Hence inferior.
Hence inferior. Well,
Yeah.
it goes back all that way. We've learned something.
Very cool. We've learned something today.
Well, that's it. We could tick that off the Wikicast
Brilliant.
bingo.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. That's that's so cool.
Yeah, that's actually. I've got to say, that's one of the more interesting things we've learned. Little nugget of information.
I don't think we've ever had a kind of a bio page for someone of antiquity.
No, we had Mehmed the Conqueror.
Yeah, but he was later though, wasn't he?
He was the one that ended antiquity in some arguments, because he was the one that took Byzantium from the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think we've had anything that's actually been to do with your degree. Whereas, have we had anything that's to do with mine? Really?
Not really. We got close with. We had a crater once that was named after a god that I could kind of ramble about. Yeah. And then, you could talk about craters and other sciencey interesting / boring stuff.
But so far we're kind of none for what episode is this? 39?
39?
Something like that. We still haven't had anything that we're actually qualified to talk of until now.
Yeah, until now.
Until 139 for Dan and 0 for me. But I mean, so if you were to choose a wiki, what were you hoping for, Tom? What's your kind of area that you could randomize on, and you'd be like, well, I could talk about this.
Oh gosh, probably sitcoms. Very specifically, Frasier. I think I would do pretty well if the random article was Frasier.
I've never seen any Frasier.
Really?
Yeah,
I've not either. I don't think.
I've heard really good things because I know Sips.
Yeah.
Yogscar Sips. Twitch and YouTube powerhouse. He really likes Frasier. He's often kind of quoting it. But
am I right in saying that it was an offshoot of Cheers?
That's right. Yeah, it was a spin-off series that actually ran at the same time as Friends. Like, I think they launched like the same year, but maybe a couple months apart.
Oh, right. So that was a real golden age for like US TV then, because that was the same time as the original run of The Simpsons when it was good.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also caught the tail end of Seinfeld as well.
Oh my
like
God.
The last couple seasons of that were during the first couple seasons of Frasier.
American sitcoms I've never really gotten into. Like The Simpsons is basically the extent of my US TV knowledge. I think that's partly because we had to pay for it. It was only on paid networks here. Like, it wasn't on BBC or ITV.
Yeah, I think also like whenever we talk about last episode we discussed what was it, Death at a Funeral. How there's the original kind of British film and then the American remake. Both great films in their own rights, but both very different films.
Yeah,
you know, the whole idea of kind of the British comedy versus American comedy, kind of that kind of black deadpan humour for Britain versus the more kind of slapstick or crude kind of it's I don't know.
Not that I wish to stereotype.
I have watched some of The Office, the American Office, and it's actually not bad because you can't really compare them. They're so like different in their you know as to how they were conceived. It's all right. You know.
So is that your kind? Because I actually don't know your background, Tom. What is so? We basically gave like a 10-second elevator pitch for your existence on planet Earth. But like, tell us a bit more. Tell me, you know, like, or tell us. Sorry, I forget that Dan is here. But for context readers, both Dan and I can't speak for Tom, but both Dan and I are topless. It is incredibly warm here.
It's ridiculous.
So Dan and I are sat next to each other, sweating topless, doing this podcast.
Drinking,
so I just looked over and I was like,
beer as well. You finished all yours, so it's properly laddie. It's amazing.
I looked over and it was like, oh, I forgot you were here.
Yeah.
Is it still raining? I can't feel it. So yeah, Tom, sorry. What's your kind of background? Where did you come from, and where are you at the moment?
Yeah, well, so I am a podcaster based out of Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. I guess, in terms of background, so right out the gate, I don't really have an academic background. I was an art student for a while, and then I dropped out of that, took a few classes at Berklee College of Music in Boston, dropped out of that, and have kind of just been feeling my way out through the sort of online media landscape since then. I worked for a while with Tim Blay from Acapella Science as sort of a production assistant on that channel. So that's actually how Simon and I got connected initially. We did an episode of Up for Discussion like a year or so ago, wasn't it? Yeah. After the Hamilton parody that we were both a part of.
I remember that. Yeah.
So yeah, sort of just a like mostly self-taught internet person at this point, kind of all over the place artistically, but with a primary focus on comedy for sure.
What's your instrument, by the way? Because you said you did music stuff for a while.
Yeah, so actually, Tim and I, before Acapella Science, we were in a acoustic like cover band duo together, sort of in the vein of all the big YouTube people from back then, kind of, you know, two dudes sitting down with guitars and singing things with sweet harmonies. So I started out just as a singer, but I also play guitar and a bit of keys and bass, and you know.
So would you say you're comparable to the Milk Carton Kids in any way?
I don't know the Milk Carton Kids.
Oh, here we go. Dan.
Gosh, you shouldn't
release the river.
Yeah, you shouldn't have said that. They are probably my favorite band at the moment.
Okay, send me some stuff. I'll give it a listen later.
Yeah, they're superb. They've actually just released. They've been spending like the last year and a bit producing a new album, and previously their stuff was just it's two voices and two guitars. The guitars are in harmony, much like with the voices, but this time they've added like way more instrumentation to the album. When I came back from Rome a couple of weeks ago, I ordered the vinyl and I played it like as soon as I got in. I didn't even unpack, and it's amazing. They've put so much work in, but it sounds like you'd probably be really into them. I'll send you some stuff, but it's
cool. Yeah,
they're really, really great.
And you have something very big coming up in the next couple of months. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, big things sometimes come in small packages. My partner and I are having a baby in October.
Oh my goodness.
Which is terrifying.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, it is terrifying.
yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. But so exciting though.
Yeah, it's an exciting mix of like really wonderful and also really stressful. Yeah. And so as a result of this, we because we record all of our shows out of our house. In order to keep our network alive, we're doing a fundraiser to build a sound booth. So yeah,
cool.
Which was the podcast that I was on. There'll be a link in the description, or the show notes even, to the Up for Discussion episode where I featured, which was really fun, not least because you asked me to talk about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And that was a grave mistake.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose. I knew that you would like thrive in that situation, so I was like, you know what, let's do it.
Definitely give Up for Discussion a listen. It's really fun. I think it was probably, apart from obviously every week of the Wikicast, Dan, don't worry. I think it's probably the most fun I've ever had recording a podcast, because it was, it was just 3 people having a really good time, and then there was just happened to be microphones there, which is my favorite kind of content.
Yeah, I think that's what a podcast should be. Really. Like, I think it's something really kind of low key, with the exception of something that's like fulfilling like a specific, maybe kind of purpose or need. Like I was listening to, they've been doing some reruns on the In Our Time podcast kind of channel, and they've been putting some back from a couple of summers ago, and I was listening to Glass, an episode on Glass, and it was super interesting. Like,
and that works because it is kind of a formal structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas most podcasts, I feel like today, it is very much just trying to capture that kind of casual relationship between people. And then, it means that there was like a meme that I shared in the Discord once, which was listening to a podcast feels like there's a poster of people like laughing and having cereal and breakfast together, and then like as the listener, you're sat there next to the poster with a bowl of cereal, like, I'm part of things. I feel like that is what most podcasts today feel like. Is that how long have you been listening to podcasts? That's to both of you, by the way, because I haven't been listening that long.
I think well,
Tom,
you go first.
Okay. I think I started listening. Up for Discussion started 3 years ago. I started listening about a year before that. So yeah, about 4 years now.
Okay.
I mean, it must be. We both listened to the Og Pod.
I listened to that since its inception.
So you've been listening for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Well, I think I've always been my brain now. I think is just programmed to respond to something in that kind of like audio specific medium, because obviously I read a lot when I was a kid, but also when I was really little, when I was like a toddler and like 4 and 5, I got used to, I'd have a little radio cassette that would play out of an old radio in the corner of my room to like send me off to sleep. So now, like if I want to sleep really well, I will just put something on, not music though too, it has to be something spoken. I immediately just kind of my brain switches back into that. Oh, it's time for sleep, or I had I have all of the Harry Potter audiobooks narrated by Stephen Fry on radio cassette in their like original boxes, and they're amazing things.
And then you also downloaded them on iTunes.
Yeah, I did.
And how much did that cost you?
But too much money. We can like breeze over that.
It was 3 digits. Let's put it like that.
Yeah,
it was less than 4 digits, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Good. I don't think it was 3 digits. I think it was just under. Yeah, because they did a deal if you wanted to get all of them, and I already had some digitized.
Okay,
that's the other thing.
That's not so bad then.
But yeah, the cassettes are beautiful, and listening to them, I remember when I was much properly little, having to kind of scamper out of bed because you could only get a certain minutes worth per side of a disc. Yeah, so he'd literally be like midway through a sentence, and it'd be like, and Harry opened the door. End of side 1A, and you're like, oh no, what's behind the door? So you have to like get out of bed. And
you used to get those tapes that had like 4 sides, didn't you? As in, you'd play it through side A, side B, and then you'd flip it over again, and then it was like a different. It wasn't side
it had
A.
like a double. Yeah. It had a double.
And that blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah.
I had no idea how they worked.
They were super cool. And also having to remember, I remember you'd be listening through, maybe you'd be going for maybe an hour or so, and then the kind of the cassette would just start to kind of chew itself up. So you have to really carefully run over, stop it, slowly rewind it so it's back together, take it out, put in the cleaner. They had like a little kind of a cleaner disc that you could put in, a cleaner cassette rather, and let that run out for like 5 minutes. And I remember little 6-year-old Dan, maybe 10:30 at night, sitting cross-legged on his bedroom floor waiting for the cleaner cassette to go through so I could get back into watching it.
What I was doing in the middle of the night at that age was catching mice, because my cat, bless him, I miss him so much, a family cat called Henry, was a really good hunter, except he'd bring the stuff back alive because he was trying to teach me how to hunt. So like it felt like most evenings I would be chasing a mouse, or sometimes it'd be a frog, or very now and again it was a bird, but they were almost always dead. And like trying to shepherd these things around. So there was me cross-legged on my floor, normally wielding, for some reason, 6-year-old or 8-year-old Simon thought that spaghetti was the perfect weapon, like dry spaghetti was the perfect weapon, because you could like poke them around, it was light, and you weren't going to injure them if you accidentally hit them too hard. But yeah, I had a slightly more stressful like, evenings.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting that you got into podcasts, I guess, because you were listening to stuff as a kid, and it sort of like became something you needed. For similar things for me, like my primary thing that I do while I listen to podcasts is work. Like I need to have something on in the background, and it needs to be like dialogue based, or I can't get work done. And I think that for me that comes from, as a kid, I would watch TV while doing my homework. So I would be sitting there like, you know, doing all my lessons and everything, and something would be on in the background, whether it was SpongeBob or Star Trek or Digimon, whatever it was. I had like voices kind of carrying a conversation, distracting my thoughts so that I couldn't like wander too much. Like I would be thinking about my work, and the only sort of stray thoughts that would happen were the TV. And because they were usually like pretty linear and like on a path, it wasn't actually that distracting.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting, because when I try and work, when I work, that's a bit more positive. When I work, I often like tell myself that I can work with voices playing in the background. And for me, that's either a VOD of a live stream. Normally it's like the Oxcast playing something, or it could be, you know, like gameplay of something. And I always think that I can work to it, but I always get distracted. So I don't know, is that something, do you think that, I mean, do you find yourself like every now and again it'll just be like, oh crap, I'm just listening, or I'm just watching stuff, rather than, you know, actually getting on with work? Or do you, you know, like sail through?
I pretty much just sail through, honestly. I think if there's a video element incorporated, like if I've decided to watch Netflix while working, there's a better chance that I might get distracted. But if it's audio, I can really just... It sort of ends up being secondary.
Yeah, it's the kind of audio you're playing too, because when I listen to stuff, I make sure that it's turned up enough that I can hear it, but not so much that it almost, when you really start to focus on the task at hand, it just becomes like almost like white noise. But it's dialogue.
Yeah.
I was working in, what was it that I was trying to work to? Because there was one exception to this, and I think it was, I tried listening to a Yogpod or a Triforce, and because that conversation is so, it's so conversational, it's so back and forth between multiple people, that's when it became distracting. Whereas something like in our time, where you get maybe one particular person talking for, like, they have 5 minutes of their own time, and then they'll switch to somebody else, and it goes through, it's a little bit easier to,
I get that.
you know.
I don't know, because I often feel like I've often thought about doing something audio based to do with education or something, and to try and make something that is, you know, like chill, and it isn't a conversational thing. It is the kind of thing that people could kind of learn almost by osmosis, right? Not necessarily a revision tape, but like, I don't know, like ASM maths or something, like trying to do like softly spoken science notes or something.
ASM arithmetic.
Yeah. ASM arithmetic. Because I don't know, I feel like I did come across one ASMR channel that had done some science stuff, but I don't know, I feel like that's a vein that hasn't been exploited.
Yeah.
You know,
this would be an interesting experiment to see.
Yeah. I'll add that to the pile of things that I don't have time to do.
Stick it in the think tank, yeah.
Because I should probably regale people with this one, because I'm working on my thesis corrections. I actually set up an email reply. Presumably, Tom, you got one of these.
I got 2 of that today, yeah.
Yeah, I set up a little email reply that says I'm working in my thesis cave this week. So if you're emailing me and I don't get back to you, it's not because I'm being rude, it's because I'm trying to put my thesis in the fucking ground. Basically, I went to the library today, and I'd spent the past nearly 2 whole days generating a data set, which was the kind of the key thing that I needed to finish off this last bit of this chapter. And then basically this was like the domino. This was the first domino that fell, and then everything else followed from it, and it was just writing additional stuff in the rest of the thesis. And I got there, I got one plot out, and I was like, okay, cool, that's like a test done. Right, now let's get back to the code. I made some changes, and then let's run that plotting program again. And I accidentally hit like up on my D-pad one too many times, which then wiped all the data and then regenerated a new file. So it's currently running in the background on my laptop whilst we record, because I desperately need it, and I just like because especially it's so devastating because I set aside this week to do this work. Yesterday it was like, right, it's not quite finished yet, but that's fine. Let's just clear everything else in my to-do list. Let's reply to emails. Let's catch up with like transferring footage, all that kind of thing. And then on Tuesday we're going to get to it. And then on Tuesday I finally got to the library, finally sat down, and then I couldn't do shit at all, and I just had to leave the library because I was so angry. Like I went to the gym, and I start out at the gym with a warm-up to basically get because I'm trying to lose weight whilst sort of getting toned. So I do a sprint. I do a 2-kilometer run with a sprint at the start of the session, and I just got to the sprint section and just kept going. So I was like, I'm burning the anger out of me. I was running at like 20 kilometers per hour for like a minute or two. I was just there like, oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
That's a really productive use of your anger.
Well, I figured it was more productive than just going home and moping and, you know, just watching Game Grumps or something, because that was the alternative, was just to go home and feel sorry for myself.
You'd make an amazing Sith.
I would make an amazing
Sith. Like, be perfect, just harnessing all that raw frustration.
We were talking about this the other day, weren't we? Like, would we be Jedi or would you be Sith? Because I always like to think that I'd be a Jedi, but I'm pretty sure that the way I have a very big anger problem, and I'm pretty sure that I would be a Sith, because I try and harness that. What's the line that the Emperor has? No, he says, I can feel your anger. Strike me down with all your hatred, and your journey to the dark side will be complete. It's like complete. Tom, would you be a Jedi? Would you be a Sith?
Oh, there's no question. I would definitely be a Sith.
See, I like a man who knows what he's about.
No, I'm one of those people where, like, people talk about their, like, Harry Potter houses they've been sorted into. I've never had to do the test to know that I'm a Slytherin. I'm too motivated. I'm too I'm a person who, like, needs to get it done and feels like I will do whatever I need to do that. And I try to be a good person through that. But, like, yeah, no, at the end of the day, I'm definitely a Sith. I'm definitely a Slytherin. And I'm definitely whatever Myers-Briggs type doesn't care about Myers-Briggs tests and thinks they're a waste of time and wants to just do things that are productive instead.
Well, I mean, Dan, you're a resident Potter expert. Would it be so? I feel like I'm in our time now. Would you think it's fair to say that Slytherin doesn't mean you're evil? That's a common misconception.
Oh no, not at all. No. Just I don't think Slytherins are evil. I think they're just like really like determined.
Yeah, determined, and it's like, I think Pottermore says, like, it's determination, like a degree of kind of wit and cunning, and, you know, a kind of that's a guile. But it's a common misconception that, oh, Slytherin, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
Really.
Because I kind of thought when I did the Pottermore test that I might get Slytherin. I was actually honestly pretty sure that it was going to be Ravenclaw, worried it was going to be Hufflepuff, even more worried that it was going to be Slytherin, and I turned out to be like 92% Gryffindor.
Really?
Hufflepuffs are really lovely, and you actually look at, when you think about the values they stand for, I think it's a real compliment, because it's saying that you're more than your stereotypical characteristics. You're very caring. You're very loyal. You look out for others. You know, I think everyone's a Hufflepuff. Really, and there's a bit of Hufflepuff in everybody. It's just those who may kind of exhibit some traits a little stronger. That then, because, oh, you're clever, Ravenclaw. Yeah. Oh, you're a little bit reckless, Gryffindor. Oh no, oh, you kill people, Slytherin. No, I mean, like, but, yeah, no,
it is always a bit incongruous, isn't it? There's just like, we'll take, the 4 types of people are good, evil, smart, and other.
Yeah, and that other one. It's a real shame. I usually, as my kind of like primary form of procrastination, I find myself going onto the Pottermore, like reading various articles and kind of additional writing that J.K. Rowling's done so we can kind of, just so I can kind of relive what it was like to get new information in my favourite universe. And we were meant to go to the Hufflepuff common room. There were meant to be bits where you were meant to be taken to every single one, because you see the Ravenclaw one, you see the Slytherin and the Gryffindor, but the Hufflepuff you never get to. But she had whole scenes written through there, and it's a really cool way of you've got to tap. I think you've got to tap the right barrel. There's all these big kind of oaken barrels down near on the corridor that leads off from the kitchens in Hogwarts, and if you don't tap the right barrel, you get drenched in like vinegar, and if you do, it kind of falls away and you go through, and it's meant to resemble like a warren or a badger's set or something. It's kind of earthen, and if you look out the windows, you can see kind of like grass poking. Yeah, it's literally like a hobbit hole, basically. But it sounds like such a lovely place.
I always call bullshit on the aspect of the other students didn't know where the other common rooms were or how to get in. 11-year-olds would definitely tell each other that kind of thing.
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling definitely
but then
overestimated
it comes back.
the
It does come back down to that whole, like the houses at private schools in England. The amount of like the house rivalries that you'd get, you would keep things within your house. Like,
but when you first arrive at these places, surely you don't know that really. Like,
no, but I mean, I don't know.
None of us went to Hogwarts.
No,
so,
Tom,
I'm assuming you didn't.
This is the flaw.
No, I'm not in the right continent. For that.
You would have gone to Ilvermorny.
Oh god, yeah, that's the American version.
That's the American.
Presumably it's America and Canada.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, we didn't want to accuse you of being American then. That's
no, it's okay. I'd still like to apologize for my continent.
I mean, do you get mistaken for being American a lot, and then do you feel obliged to apologize for for everything?
Oh God, no! I'm a hoser. No one has ever thought I was American.
Given that you just said that particular phrase, it left us in everyone who's listening in no doubt. Yeah, he's absolutely a Canadian.
Yeah,
I mean, and also the whole apologizing thing itself would just be.
It was I'm a hose. It's that like it's the vowel. It's a vowel. It's so unique to that part of the world. It's such an endearing accent. I love it.
To be fair, I think that I have less of a Canadian accent than even than some of my co-hosts, but like certainly it's there, and it sneaks out sometimes too. Mostly just in weird vowel sounds.
Yeah,
I mean it's the classic kind of sound, isn't it? Like that's the is it South Park? Who is it that takes the piss out of Canadians for doing that?
South Park, yeah. They have different characters too, right? Their heads just rock from side to side when they speak. They're like 2D little paper cutouts rather than actually animated people.
I haven't watched that film in so long, the original South Park, because that's where that first came from. It was there was like a Canadian double act. Is that right? And
it was. Ooh. I'll get
Terrence and Phillip.
That's it, Terrence and Phillip.
There we go.
Yeah.
And they're just like farting. There's a whole song that's just like farting.
Yeah.
And then the Devil and Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
Are the antagonists. That's a weird film now you think about it.
Well, I mean, South Park, in terms of its kind of like its values and its moral compass and everything about it, really, it's just so skewed. They did a World of Warcraft episode though, which immediately I was like, oh, this show must be really great.
Yeah. Is that another one that's on your radar, Tom? Is that one of the articles that if we'd landed on something to do with South Park that you'd have been very happy?
I don't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of South Park. I was young for it when it was like sort of in its heyday, but actually we almost the movie came out when I was 7, and for my 7th birthday party I really wanted to watch the South Park movie with my friends, and my mom was like, look, I'm fine with this, but I can guarantee your friends' parents would take issues with you watching the South Park movie at your birthday party with them. So we're going to watch Men in Black instead. And we tried to do that, and nobody was into it, so we switched it over to Pokemon. And I really wonder if South Park would have gone over better if my mom had just been like less afraid of making me a pariah.
I mean, absolutely, no doubt the kids would have loved it. I feel like, because especially when you're at that age, it's just like, oh, we're watching the 15. We're watching the thing that we shouldn't be watching.
I don't think I would have. Right. I don't think I would have seen my first episode of South Park until I was maybe in year 6 or year 7.
I didn't watch any South Park apart from the movie, which I watched at a sleepover. I didn't watch any South Park until uni.
Yeah,
because it just passed me.
Well,
again,
how old are you
guys? Available.
I'm 21. I'm a little babby.
Babby.
Simon, how old are you? You're 42?
I'm 27.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, so I'm like right between you guys. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, because the movie came out 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it was even earlier.
Because of just thinking because of Saddam Hussein. Like, I think it was after the invasion of Iraq.
1999.
It was 99.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the same year as The Matrix and The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
What a year for cinema!
Good lord.
Yeah. Cheers.
That's crazy.
Somebody made a reference actually today on a Slack that I'm part of, and they were like, "Oh man, that video was great. It was like poetry." And I was like, "It rhymes.
Yeah.
It's so dense. every frame." I love it when you meet. Are you a fan of Red Letter Media, Tom?
No, I don't know them.
Oh, you should. They actually have their own pet Canadians. Come to think of it,
Yeah, they do.
Oh, really?
They're in is it Wisconsin?
Somewhere
That
like
is
isn't
America.
No, yeah, but they're in the very north of America, and they're in. Oh God, I'm gonna kick myself for this. Dan's googling it.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin looks like.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
Yeah,
That's
Milwaukee,
it. And then
yeah.
they also have these 2 Canadian friends who work in VFX who sometimes come down and they do movie-based stuff. It's one of our favorite channels.
It's very, very good.
It's and again, it's sort of going about the production levels thing. Actually, like they actually kind of hit the balance because they have very conversational, but with high production values at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's very slickly edited. You can tell that it's like a format that they do.
Yeah.
But it always feels like it's just kind of mates messing around with a certain degree of being scripted. But yeah, if you haven't watched them, you should definitely check them out.
Yeah.
They also do commentary tracks from movies. Which we recently discovered, where it just like release on Bandicam, and then you play it alongside the movie, and it's like you're watching it with friends.
It was
sad
really
when you
good.
say it
Yeah, it was quite funny. I'd love to do something like that.
I've done a couple things like that. It's quite an adventure.
Yeah.
We've done it a few times as bonus content for our show, exclusively with movies where young girls from the city move out to a ranch to save their family's ranch, and they like befriend horses and have to like win a race or whatever in order to make sure their ranch doesn't get foreclosed.
Yeah,
it's a terrible genre, and there's hundreds of them.
Really?
And, yeah,
that's awesome.
It's a
I
mess.
want to watch one now.
Can you recommend us some titles?
You can absolutely predict. You can. I can already think about the plot for most of these. Must be something along the lines of: girl goes back, realizing that actually that she gets to the first week on the farm. She's like, "Oh my god,
I hate it.
It's so great." There's no phones or malls and things.
There's a large, muscly white guy with like long brown hair.
Well, I was thinking more, but actually, it turns out that when she was mucking out one of the stables, and she has like an encounter with one of these horses, and she ends up really liking this horse, and then she has the kind of the person who owns the ranch. She's like, "Oh, you should go and try racing one of these horses," you see. And then she goes for her first race, and she doesn't do so well. But it's that determination and the cheering that she needs.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna win.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it again. Yeah. And she does, and she wins, and then
she wins the race, and she also wins the heart of the muscly man.
Yeah, there you go.
Who she bumped into once in the stables with his top off, and she didn't realise that she was there. And
she mistook it. She mistook him for the horse. It was like,
and then she found one.
Yeah,
but not the one she was looking for.
Yeah, that's not that far off, honestly. Amazing. There's usually also an element of it where it's like there's a single parent involved, and like the kid comes with the single parent and doesn't want to be there, but the kid ultimately ends up being the one who saves the ranch.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I'm now imagining like the movie poster for this, and it's Dan is the muscly topless man.
Yeah.
This girl comes across you, like you see the back of the girl's head, and like, or maybe like her mouth, her hand commit to her mouth, like,
yeah.
And then you're like mucking at a stable.
Or it's just me in the background, and it's my head photoshopped onto the top of like a Shetland pony, like something really, like a really small kind of. I should also say, because that was a glorious moment that you'll hear in the audio, where my voice just completely broke midway through me trying to say the word pony. I've been singing basically all day yesterday and all day today as part of being up at Homerton College for their tour, and it's shot my voice to pieces. We're taking such big music and we don't break, and it's like 10 till 5:30 each day, so I apologize, readers, if
what I now want to do based on this discussion is write a movie about a horse from the city that goes back to the human village.
Yeah, that's nearly almost Madagascar, isn't it?
I've not actually seen Madagascar.
It's hilarious because King Julian is in it, voiced by Sacha Baron Cohen.
That's not Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, he makes those films. He's so he's so funny.
I had no idea. And then the accent is always a bit like, where is this person from?
Yeah. Do you remember Racing Stripes? That one about it was a zebra that was taken into a ranch, and then they raced. It was a horse. Yeah, he was brought up with other horses, and then he ended up winning a Grand National or something.
Because zebras are stronger than horses, right? I think they can go faster, I want to say, but their temperament means you can't domesticate them.
Yeah.
But how about we need to write a movie, do the trailer for a movie. Well, I want to take a city horse. So for one thing, we need to establish horse cities, which are all on the flat. There are no stairs.
I thought just like a horse from the city, so like from like the mounted guard of like the police.
Oh, like a carriage horse.
Carriage horse. Yeah.
carriage horse, and then it's like, oh, I'm above all these country horses.
Yeah, and it goes to like a North Yorkshire farm.
What, like an inverse war horse?
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be amazing.
And then, like, they have to try and rescue. The stable's going to close down unless someone starts winning races.
Horse arrives at the farm. Oh, look at Mr. Shiny hooves coming in here, thinking he's all
and it's going to be voiced like it's kind of Chicken Run.
Yeah,
with these regional accents, and it's like Rocky coming in. Oh man, we need to branch into the movie business.
Yeah, quick, copyright that.
And then what? And then they come across a really big stallion.
The untamable one, like the one who kind of roams the dales.
And there needs to be like in these films, is there also normally like a wise old woman figure? Like
there's always someone wise and old.
Yeah. Some sage being.
So then there needs to be like an old horse, a really old, like knackered, and then
no, it should be like a donkey that was used to be
farm?
Used to be at the at a zoo or something, and then the zoo closed down, and these people took it in, and because the donkey's travelled, and it's like.
And then as your third act peril, after they've saved the stable, and you think, oh, everything's fine, the movie's going to end. No, turns out they took away the old woman horse to the glue factory.
Oh no!
And then you have to chase, like Warhorse, chase along the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, bring my friend back. And then it's going to be sort of like the end of Toy Story 2 meets the middle action sequence from Chicken Run.
Yeah, it's a winner. That as a pitch, take that to Paramount. Be like, hey guys,
and we'll call it Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
Man, I've got to say, Tom, of all the genres you could pick to do, why did you pick that genre? By the way, what about it?
So, I like horses.
Okay.
I'm a person who likes. That's not the full explanation.
Absolute shock horror.
I'm a person who likes horses, and at one point, my co-host Simon and I were thinking about doing a movie commentary, and we're like, oh, like what could we watch? And I don't know how, but we stumbled across a movie on Netflix called Rodeo and Juliet.
Oh my god, that is absolute genius.
It's terrible, but it's basically it's another story of a girl who goes to a ranch from the city and finds out that the ranch is closing down or whatever, and has to win a horse race in order to save the ranch. Falls in love with the cute ranch hand, etc., etc. We watched that, did a commentary on it, and had so much fun with it that we decided we were going to do another one the next time. And then we watched Race to Win, which is a movie with a nearly identical plot, but Luke Perry is in it. And he plays like the dad of the kids on the ranch, and dies within the first 5 minutes of the movie, and then just keeps coming back and haunting his kids and telling them like, "Ooh, you gotta
ride the horse."
Yeah,
your uncle killed me.
Yeah. Wow.
So we did two of those in a row, and then my partner, who actually we weren't even dating at the time, but she was just a friend of ours and was listening to the show and enjoying them, messages me and says, hey, I want to write how did this go? I want to write a romantic short story in several parts, starring all of the hosts of your show having sex with each other near horses. Are you okay with this? And I said,
yeah, and naturally
right.
Your response was, yeah, of course, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's it. And so for about maybe 20 episodes in a row last summer, we had a recurring segment where the last 20 minutes of our show was us reading out loud excerpts of this story, which I have actually typed up into a full script, and we are in the process of turning it into a radio
Oh my
play.
god.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Well, it's like we actually do have a fan fiction today, by the way.
Oh, amazing.
We do, and I think it's the Digital Adventures of Simon and Dan, I want to say.
Oh, cool. Because we've had several different stories.
It's like our version of Bodega.
Yeah.
I love the recurring themes, and we have to remind ourselves what the story was before we get to it.
I guess given that
Right.
on the topic of films and radio plays and stuff of a media kind of ilk,
Oh, I see where you're going.
I think we might have to hop on over to Critics Corner.
Can we go on horseback?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's ride over. I'll get the fake coconuts out.
We're gonna have to clop over to.
Yeah, there
Simon,
you go.
quickly add some coconut noises. Yeah. We're off.
There we go. Wow, look, we're here. What a short journey.
Oh my my god. Okay. Wow. We're in Critics Corner, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, sorry, I said in the email to you when we were sort of setting this up, to, you know, if you've been watching anything, and you came out with a perfect response. Like, this was, you couldn't have picked anything better to say. So what have you been watching recently?
Well, we've been watching a lot of Netflix baking shows.
Brilliant.
Specifically,
man after my own heart.
I mean,
perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Because are there ones other than the Great British Bake Off?
Oh yeah, so I don't think Netflix Canada has the Great British Bake Off. So I have never seen a single episode of that one.
My god.
We've been watching Nailed It, which is this American one that they made, like it's Netflix original from earlier this year, where basically some like real amateur bakers come in and try to replicate fancy looking.
I've seen trailers for this. It looks
very
really good.
like
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Pinteresty. Yeah, it's super fun. And then we've also, when we ran out of that, we started watching Zumbo's Just Desserts, which is this Australian baking competition.
Okay.
That is just so magical, and also everyone's really lovely and like fun and friendly, and yeah.
Australia did do like an Australian version of Bake Off, literally called The Great Aussie Bake Off or something. And they tried.
Really?
It went basically from exactly the same aesthetic as the British one. So in a really nice kind of white, like gazebo-y tent kind of thing. Everything covered in like gingham cloths and stuff. But obviously in Australia it's ridiculous because this thing basically turned into a greenhouse and you couldn't cook anything in it, and it just didn't kind of really work. But
oh no.
I was watching. I've mentioned Chef's Table before, and the fourth season is specifically about desserts. It's they're featuring chefs famous for their desserts, and there was one American woman who got Tom, you might know who this is because I think she's really big in the US and Canada. She kind of like patented or started using cereal milk in her. Oh, what's her name?
What's cereal milk?
The milk you get in cereal.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean just milk?
Yeah. No, but like cereal milk. So you get a bowl of cereal, you pour the milk into it, you then eat the cereal, but leave the milk in the bowl.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then she uses that to make stuff.
It's the milk version of tea.
I'm gonna find her name.
Cereal. You know, it's like how you have different kinds of teas. You have different cereals. You let it stew for a bit, and then you sift it out, and then admittedly you don't eat the tea leaves, but you see where I'm getting at with this.
Yeah. Christina
Tosi?
She's really big apparently, and she does really cool stuff with flavors and things. But that's the thing. She started it by making. I think she made a panna cotta, which obviously cream or milk is the basis, and served it in a restaurant, and everyone was like, "That's amazing! What is it?" And she said, "Oh, I just use cereal milk. Like I pour myself a bowl of cornflakes, let it to sit for a while, sieve the cornflakes out.
It's literally tea.
Yeah, and then kind of put it through, and it was amazing. But she now uses everything to the point of which, if you go into one of her, it's called I think her line of not like shops. I'm going to go with shops. Bakeries, I guess, or delicatessen. You can go into where you'd normally get like smoothies out of a drinks cabinet or something.
Oh my god!
There are little bottled things of cereal milk.
You can just cereal tea.
You can just get cereal milk. Like, it's amazing.
I'm sorry. I've now heard the word cereal milk so many times. I've got complete semantic association.
Yeah.
That ceases to have any meaning to me now.
I hate everything about that.
Yeah, because I don't have milk with my cereal. I'm an exclusively dry cereal kind of guy.
Me too. I can't. Well, I'm like just lactose intolerant enough that like if I put milk on cereal and eat it, I will probably feel gross afterwards, so I try to avoid it.
Well, actually, yeah, I could ask you this. Where do you stand on custard? What temperature do you have your custard?
Okay, I voted cold, but to be fair, I think that I only ever think of custard as like a filling that you can get in like prepackaged
like, if you have custard donuts, then I think that's fair. But I think as a thing that you as a sauce, if you like, that you add to something.
Yeah.
I have never in my life added custard to something as a sauce. I think that's it sounds great. It's just not part of the dessert culture here.
I don't think I've had custard in literally years.
Oh, but it's so great. I could literally eat, the Birds packets that you can get. I could literally just make a jug of that and just eat it.
Yeah.
What is custard made of?
It's
like
eggs.
It comes from the packet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I just know that if you squish a donut, sometimes it comes out.
It's egg, flour.
Yeah. It starts off almost kind of like you're making a roux, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
So,
and milk. I think those are actually just the ingredients, aren't they?
Yeah, so based on a cooked mixture of milk or cream and egg yolk with flour and something to thicken it, I guess. Yeah, so egg custard, whole milk.
So it's like pancake mix.
Kind of.
It's like a liquid pancake.
Delicious.
When you put it like that, that's great, because the idea of just eating pancake mix is disgusting.
Yes, I'll have an order of liquid pancakes and cereal milk, please.
So the ingredients here to make how they describe it as proper custard, you need.
Is this like the French custard?
500 no, it's like proper. I think so, like British proper. You know, like the custard that we're used to.
Because the French call, I think it's crème anglaise is the official name of it.
Yes. Yeah. 570 ml. Well, we don't need the measurements. We're not actually going to make it, are we? Double cream, single cream or milk, 6 large egg yolks, golden caster sugar mixed with a level dessert spoon of corn flour, and pure vanilla extract.
So only the egg yolks.
Yes.
So there we go. I guess that's what makes it different from.
Well, I guess if you use the whites, you'd get something like of a meringue because you've got to whisk it.
I suppose.
Whereas if you whisk,
yeah.
you know.
But yes, for my entire life, custard has been the thing that comes from the bird's packets and you add boiling water to.
I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to announce that in every other episode now we're going to have like a cooking corner.
Oh
we're
my
going to have
god!
like a segment where like today's recipe is, you know, it's gonna be. We could do it in the style of Nigella Lawson though, and make it just overly sexual and ASMR-y.
Take your cereal milk.
Yeah, take a knob of ginger. Like, oh no, Nigella, what are you doing?
A big old knob of butter.
Yeah. Yeah. Critics Corner. What?
It went off the rails.
Oh yeah, so Netflix, right? Yeah, so cooking shows. That's right. Well, I saw The Incredibles 2.
I still haven't seen it.
Ooh,
I've been saving myself to watch Little Pixel Girl, so no spoilers. Please.
It was awesome. I'm not gonna.
Was it incredible?
Yeah, I think everyone who went in to watch it, we've all been waiting so long, and it was really good. You know, I did really well in not hearing any spoilers online because it was
I actually
all
still
over
haven't
the
heard
place.
any. It hasn't been ruined at all.
It's just amazing to see when you watch. You know, I watched some clips of the first film to kind of get myself hyped up again, and comparing it just how it is on the screen in terms of the complexity of the shots they're using and how kind of full the frame is with stuff
how
going
dense
on.
The frame is.
Yeah, but like, you know, like how when you see at the end when the Underminer in the first film, which is where the second film begins, he's like wrecking the city. There are no people.
Yeah.
And there's maybe like a couple of cars, but it's really sparse. It looks like it's been made. It almost looks like a fan-made thing that someone's trying to do as an animation project. Whereas when you look at what they've done now, it's so vivid and full and detailed, and it's a joy to watch. It really is.
Does it feel like it has the Pixar kind of magic to it still?
Yes, absolutely. It absolutely does. And Jack, all I'm going to say is Jack completely steals the film.
Oh, okay.
He is adorably cute, and just what he. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything, but you'll watch it and be like, wow, yeah, Dan was right. Jack makes it.
I'm honestly so looking forward to it, and the music as well, because it's a fantastic score for the first one.
Really good.
But it feels the same music wise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really well in keeping, especially given it's been 13 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is insane,
I saw a thing actually. It's this new genre, this new way of me watching TV, which is on mute with subtitles at the gym. Because they have a bank of 3 TVs, and so you're watching like 3 programs at once, and you kind of feel like it's just going straight into your brain. And then, you know, I tend to go in the middle of the day because I work at home. I can go whenever I want, so I can avoid the rush. But it means you get all the shite daytime TV. And they were interviewing the lady who played Elastigirl, and she didn't meet the guy who played her husband until like 2 years ago. Like they did the whole film and they never met.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts, really, when you think about it. Like, that you could be, you know, have such an intimate relationship on screen and have never even met the guy.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess, when they did the Spike Jonze film, Her.
Yeah. Oh, and they didn't, and Scarlett Johansson wasn't.
Yeah, they redubbed the voice of the AI. It's meant to be somebody else. So she had to fit everything in without ever having a conversation with Joaquin Phoenix.
And you'd never guess.
Yeah,
that was a fantastic performance in that film.
There's some great films coming out at the moment, though. I mean, I'm really desperate to see Mamma Mia 2 because I love ABBA and I like Mamma Mia, and I'm not going to apologise for it.
Here we go again.
You shouldn't apologise for it.
Fantastic, and it's just good watching, and it's feel good, and and it's had such amazing reviews. People have been absolutely raving about it. Apparently, it's superb. They released another trailer for
Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yep, Crimes of Grindelwald. There was another one that I was thinking of. Oh, what was it?
See, there was me thinking that we were in a bit of a lull at the moment for movies because, like, The Incredibles 2 just came out, and before then there was Solo, which I still haven't seen.
All right.
But like, it seems like no one's been to see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels like it's a bit of a lull at the moment. Maybe they figure that no one wants to go into a nice, cold, air-conditioned room, and that's exactly what I want to do.
It's because the football's coming at.
Oh. Football never came home.
Yeah.
It's like Dad.
Yeah. Oh God.
Relatable.
There was something else I'm sure that I was thinking of that I wanted to go and see, but I can't remember what it was.
What's on the horizon for you, Tom? What are you looking forward to?
Oh man, so a confession is that I don't really watch movies.
Get out. Get out.
I barely watch movies these days. I just don't have time.
Like, yeah, for me it's like, for one thing, spending money to go to the theater is nuts. It's too expensive. Even the cheap showings are too expensive to be in a room with a bunch of strangers where I'm not allowed to look at my phone.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
My entire like theater going experience now is like if I'm seeing a musical or if I'm going to an improv show. Those are the only times that I'm willing to do it. Otherwise, forget it. But even in terms of movies that like come out later on Netflix, I'll look at something and say like, oh, I really want to see The Last Jedi and it's out on Netflix now, and I'll leave it on my list for months before I get around to it. Like, I haven't watched that movie yet. I'm sure I will eventually. I still haven't seen Rogue One. I really want to.
Oh, you definitely should. It's good.
It's just not happening.
No, I totally agree with you, by the way. So you're not the only one here. If anything, Dan's the weird one.
I mean, I don't go to this. I don't go to the cinema that often, but I think when you might watch some YouTube stuff, if I'm like relaxing in an evening, I will go onto Netflix or I'll go onto Amazon Prime and see if there's something there. Just because, and because there's a difference in settling down to watch like an episode of Antiques Roadshow or Country File, which for me is, I mean, I that is my jam. I love that. But it's a shorter viewing time, knowing that you're kind of settling down for a film that I might know a little bit about, or something I've been meaning to watch. Like, that's what I was going to think of. Imperium.
Oh.
The Daniel Radcliffe
what is that?
One where he's an FBI agent infiltrating a white supremacist group.
Yeah.
It was. Right. I think it came out in like 2000 and, I want to say maybe 14. But I remember seeing the trailer and being like, God, that looks good. I really want to see that. And then I completely forgot the film existed and I never saw it at all. And it's currently on BBC iPlayer. And I watched it and it was really good. But the idea of kind of sitting down and knowing that you're in for like an hour and a half or maybe more. Just brilliant. I rewatched Knight Rider.
Nightcrawler. Great film.
Which was just like super cool.
I mean, it's also just, I think it's a massive difference in production value. When you sit down to listen to a podcast or a YouTube video, you know that it's a format that, you know, it hasn't got a lot of money associated with it. You know, it's a casual format. Whereas if you watch a Netflix show or if you watch a film, it's a different way of experience. There's just a slightly different way that your brain's switched to. You know, it's your brain is telling you this is like, you sit down and pay attention because a lot of money's been spent on this. And sometimes you want that, and I feel like I've now been finding that more and more because I've been watching The Expanse a lot. I'm like midway through season 2 now, and I also been watching the Ken Burns documentary on the Vietnam War, which, because I know basically nothing about the Vietnam War. And they're like 10 episodes that are like feature length, each one of them. And it's a different experience. It's an hour and a half or an hour if it's The Expanse of, this is entertainment with a capital E, rather than this is a bunch of guys messing around who have knocked this out in a day, kind of thing.
Actually, finally saw a movie trailer that I watched and said, oh, you know what? I might actually want to see this in theaters. And it was the new Godzilla.
Oh, I still haven't
looks
seen
pretty
the
good.
full is that a full trailer or just the one with 11 from Stranger Things?
It's a full trailer. They released it yesterday, I think. And right out the gate, you get to see that, like, it's got a great cast. Bradley Whitford from The West Wing is in it. What's his name? Thomas Middleditch is in there. Obviously, what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown. There you go. Plays, I guess, the lead in that. There's a bunch of other names in there that I recognized, and like when I saw them on screen, I was like, oh, cool, that person's in this. And it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it also looks like from the visual spectacle of the trailer, you want to see it in IMAX. Like you've got to go to a big theater and see. It was like when we were talking about
Dunkirk.
No, Dunkirk, true, but the what was the scary one that you didn't end up going and seeing?
Oh, The Quiet Place.
The Quiet Place.
Yeah.
That had to be because the shots were so big, but also sound was such an integral part of the film that if you don't go somewhere that's got like just an amazing Dolby surround setup, it's just not the same. But it was so worth going, and there's something great about going and seeing a thriller.
Oh yeah, for sure, it's an experience.
Yeah,
it's like how I
people,
will always get popcorn.
Yeah.
At the cinema because it's part of the experience of doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I love the original the Godzilla film that came out a couple of years ago. I thought it was quite underrated actually. Like, specifically the Mutos, the creature design and the sound design of the film was amazing. So I'd be keen to see the trailer for that. Actually, I saw that there was like a teaser because it was posted on Reddit. There's a teaser, but you can see a camera operator like clear as day in the corner of this teaser trailer, and that was the first I'd heard that they were doing a sequel. So I'll have to check that out.
I've seen the teaser, but I don't think I've seen the full length one. Or maybe I have, but is the full? Do you see the weird kind of the watery looking one?
That wasn't the teaser that I saw.
Okay.
The teaser I saw was just 11 in like a radio operating room.
Yeah. Okay.
No, This is like a full trailer.
Oh, cool.
Either way,
that's
cool.
exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So that looks great. But honestly, like the last time that I went to a theater to see a movie was Murder on the Orient Express.
Nice.
Which like I have loved every version of that I've ever seen or read.
Oh, are you an Agatha Christie fan?
Honestly, not even. I think it's one of those stories, right, where I think I read it for the first time in school like 10, 15 years ago and just really liked it, and then had seen various adaptations of it just sort of haphazardly. And like, so for this one, I thought, okay, the cast is really stacked. They've got Josh Gad, they've got Leslie Odom Jr., they've got a bunch of other people that I'm blanking on right now because I care less about them than I do about those two specifically. So I was like, okay, I've got to see this in theaters, and I didn't regret it. It was really fun.
Superb film. I absolutely fell in love with the score.
Yeah.
I immediately went home and put the soundtrack on my Apple Music and was like, this is just, it's really good. It's really good.
Top lad, stop the podcast. We just need to say a very quick thank you to some of the lovely people on the internet who have decided that this, whatever you want to call it, level of quality of podcast is worth supporting.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to give a shout out to some very special people who make this whole endeavour possible. You're all wonderful people, and we're going to kick off with
Ben Dent.
We're also going to kick off with Isabel Ostrowski. Did you not read her name out because you couldn't pronounce it?
Yeah, I was a little bit unsure, so I thought I'd leave that one to you. I saw like a really strong Anglican kind of just British now.
Ben Dent.
I can do that one. That's fine. We also have Connor Levers.
Rory Healy.
Oh gosh.
You cucked yourself.
Oh, I know this one. Marut Vakira Punyawat.
Close enough for Jazz. V Gascoigne.
Henry Brewster.
Lewis Watson.
Eric Davis.
Billy Toulson.
Elliot Conway.
Ben McMurtry,
who I saw yesterday, and he's doing super well. And he took our advice on joining a choir. He emailed in as a question, being like, "What do I do?" I added him to another group, and he's now singing with Queen's Graduate Choir, Cambridge, which is awesome. So it was lovely to see you, Ben.
David Scahill.
The Moustache Man.
Habiba Amjad.
Dan Hanvey, the one, the only.
I literally was about to say the one, the only. Yeah. It's basically his middle name at this point. Lachlan Woods.
John Mannion.
Nick Webster.
Luke Thatcher.
Simon Torseth.
Alex Creer.
Geordie Eschendahl.
Matt Maguire.
Jay Wright.
Wonderful Stephen.
Tapio Kirkinen.
Davishram Vontabel.
And Simon Vase.
Amazing.
That's two Simons we have now. Is that actually? Have we got more?
Yes, and Torseth.
And Torseth, yeah. Great names.
Amazing.
We asked you guys for feedback. We're still working out what we're doing with this section, guys, because we do want to make it worth your while. because you do make this podcast possible, and the money that you've been donating to patreon.com/the Wikicast does make, well, actually, we've been talking about how to spend some of that money in the future, haven't we?
Yes.
And potentially, there's been a suggestion of a meetup over the summer, which this money could go towards getting Dan over to the southeast, and also possibly helping out with some gaming stuff in the future.
Yeah, we have big plans.
We actually have been doing a few things behind the scenes, which is shock horror. We've been doing something at all.
Yeah.
Your guys' support makes it all possible. Thank you so much. That of course are our top lad patrons. They donate $5 a month, but we also have our Team Dog and Team Cat patrons. And Dan, would you like to? Oh, for God's sake! I just saw the result. For fuck's sake!
Oh well, in a shocking turn of events, ladies and gentlemen, we have Team Dog on 35 patrons and Team Cat on a measly 30.
Measly.
That's. I mean, I said from the very beginning, we'd hold out. We were slow and steady wins the race, and
another measly.
Team Dog, I'm super proud of you. Team Dog is clearly the superior.
Guys, what are you, Tom? Are you Team Dog or Team Cat?
I'm Team Cat.
Thank you.
I see. It was going so well, Tom.
We outnumbered you, Dan.
It was going,
So for those of you who are Team Cat, like all the sensible people, do go to patreon.com/the Wikicast, and you can pledge just $1 a month, which pays for our hosting. We give a pretty generous, I think, donation to the Wikimedia Foundation every month, and it's going to allow us to pay for other things like expenses, for travel, and potentially for some gaming stuff on the Spongy Electric YouTube channel.
More on that, maybe.
More on that maybe soon. Maybe it's already come out.
maybe it's already there. Who knows? But...
Probably not, because I'm very busy this week working on the thesis. If this code fucking works.
So he has been editing something.
Ooh. But so that is where the money has been going, and we are incredibly grateful to those of you who support the Wikicast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And now we should go back to our regular scheduled content.
Yeah, let's do it.
Clock, clock, clock,
Clock,
clock,
clock,
clock.
clock, clock.
Oh, it's the Must Be Stable Boy. Top lad. Crisis alert! We're in a crisis alert corner.
We are.
And we've had a few people email in some crises. So this is the section of the podcast where we talk about an anonymous reader who is written in with something that's going wrong with their lives, and we try and offer some advice. Sometimes we are qualified to talk about it.
More often than not, though, we're just trying our best.
Oh yeah, we're absolutely not qualified. Yeah. But now there are three of us. There's three of us to try and tackle this problem. And I feel like it's a relatively heavy one from Anonymous this week.
Okay.
So I thought like we should deploy this one this week because we need all the firepower, emotional supporting firepower that we can get.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'll do, Tom, is I'm going to read this out, and then if you want to jump in with your first impressions, and then we can do the community study group thing and band together and come up with a solution.
Sounds good.
Let me read. How am I going to do this?
Usually people use their eyes.
Yeah.
Well, it's
nice,
just a
Tom.
bit far.
Same level. We immediately. It's good. That was really good.
This is from Anonymous, who writes in saying, "Howdy, friends." I probably shouldn't do an accent because I imagine it's probably going to get worse from here.
Yeah. Also making it sound like super chipper already.
Howdy, friends.
Yeah.
Must warn for the audience, this crisis corner will be talking about stuff that may make people uncomfortable.
Oh god.
Like this.
Yeah,
accent.
I'm uncomfortable.
Oh Christ, yeah. Trigger warnings for sexual assaults. I'm glad I'm not carrying on with that accent for the
there
entire
we go. Okay.
the entire email. Here we go. Back to normal voice. Anonymous writes, "Basically, I trusted a friend of mine and went over to his apartment one night, and even though he didn't mean to hurt me, I was severely uncomfortable with the events that occurred and simply froze in the moment. I struggled with thinking about it because I think if I had just got out of there, or if I wouldn't have trusted him, or if I wouldn't have frozen, I can't help but think it's my fault, and it has affected me tremendously. My anxiety has been through the roof, and I've been to multiple counsellors of late to talk to you. I'm also on new anxiety medication, so hopefully it will help. He texted me last night apologising for everything, and when I got it, I was on a FaceTime call and started crying. I was truly a mess. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and it wasn't something I wanted to confront. I didn't answer, haven't answered yet, and don't know if I should. There's a part of me that just wants to ignore it, but I have done since it happened, and the friend won't let me just forget him. I don't interact with him on social media, but he finds me in person and always tries to talk to me. I'm terrified of confronting the situation, but I don't know what to do. Please help. Thanks, a friend." P.S. I've just made the decision not to report the incident for many personal reasons. So obviously this is sort of a heavy thing to drop you in on, Tom. But what's your first impression of this?
Okay, 2 things right out the gate. One, Anonymous, you do not owe this guy anything. You do not owe him an explanation of why what he did hurt you. You don't owe him like an acceptance of his apology even. You owe him nothing. I do understand wanting to like not hurt a friend for what sounds like maybe a misunderstanding or a badly handled situation. However, I don't think that that's on you at all. I don't think that you like not doing anything about it in the moment is your fault. I think that he put you in a situation where you felt like you had no options, and that sucks and that's shitty, and he shouldn't have done that. I think you have to decide like if you want to try and like maintain a friendship with this guy, you will have to like call him out on that and make sure he understands that it wasn't okay. How much you want to like rip him a new one for it is entirely up to you, but like you definitely, if you want to have any kind of good relationship with this guy, you will eventually have to call him out on this. If you're not comfortable doing it alone, bring someone you trust to help you with it. But honestly, I don't know. Everybody makes mistakes like this at some point. Consent is a tricky thing to navigate, and like it can be so hard to tell what someone is like putting out into the world if no words are used, right? But that's not an excuse for it, right?
No, absolutely
that's
not.
like, yeah, and so like, you know, I'm just gonna assume you're in college because I feel like this is a very college story of like, you know, going to a friend's place and then them misunderstanding what the relationship is. People that age make these kinds of mistakes. It's not good, it's not acceptable, but it is a thing that happens, and it is a thing that we need to see happening a lot less. But the only way that it's going to happen less is if people are educated and called out on those mistakes when they make them. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it alone, there's so many ways that you can do it with someone's help. But the only way that this guy's going to learn from this and not do this again, and the only way you're going to continue having any type of relationship with this guy, is if you call him out on it one way or another and make sure that he understands and learns from it. But again, like, you don't owe him that either, right? Like, it is not your responsibility to be the one who educates him. You're in a unique position where you could be the one to educate him if you choose to, but like that should not fall on you. And that sucks. I am so sorry that you ended up in that situation.
Especially
and like
having the kind of the crossed lines between, you know, this is a friend as well, so the kind of emotional compass it must be going haywire, because this was presumably someone that you knew, liked, and trusted, and now I imagine that a lot of that kind of trust and maybe like it might not have completely have gone, but it's been severely kind of damaged. But you still want, you know, you said Anonymous says at the end, you've made the decision not to report the incident for kind of personal reasons, which I think that's really good that you've given it that much thought, and you know, and so it's really considered. But obviously it's not something that you really want to spend a lot of time thinking about, and if it makes you, especially with anxiety, you're literally stuck between like a rock and a hard place with this one. I think Tom's absolutely right in saying that if, regardless of whether anyone's going to be forgiven or whatever happened is going to be kind of accepted and people move on, I think what's really important for Anonymous at the moment is trying to find some degree of closure, because it still feels like it's very much like an open wound, and because there hasn't been any step to kind of try and at least bookend it in some way, so you have some time to kind of heal and move on. Because it's still open, there isn't a way of doing that. So I think it's more of a question of like, what kind of closure do you think that you'd like, and how can you achieve that? Talking to the person will be as Anonymous says, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable and stressful, and you don't really want to do it, but this person is still clearly there. I think most importantly, if that person is still coming up to you and is still insisting on talking to you and isn't cottoning on to the fact that you're really uncomfortable, you were then and you are now, then maybe some form of, not so much confrontation, but getting a message to this person to be like, hey, actually, you know what, things aren't okay. This is why I'm being so, so quiet and kind of avoiding. But
at the same time, the decision to do something is entirely yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the fact. I just echo what Tom said. You don't owe them a fucking thing.
No.
They have massively hurt you. As you say, even though they didn't mean to, they did cause you significant harm. And they've made you, incredibly anxious. You don't owe them anything on top of, at all. Like I was going to say, on top of that, like they've done enough damage to you. It's not like you're in their debt in any way. I do. It is a tricky one, because. The getting the closure is kind of, I can see it feeling necessary, because even though you don't interact with them on social media, they keep pestering you in person and everything like that, and because it's a friend, you can't get away from the situation. They're going to keep pestering you about it, and so it's
which is why the closure won't come. Because you no matter how many other people you talk to, or how much you really talk, it sounds really silly, but talk to yourself and really go, like, I kind of acknowledge, okay, this is a thing that happened. I really, really didn't like it, but I'm gonna try and deal with this the best way I can. Mm-hmm. You can have all those conversations with other people and yourself, but if another person who is pretty instrumental in you having to have these conversations isn't aware that you're having to go to these lengths to talk, mm-hmm. I the thing that made me think about it when you said that you didn't feel like comfortable wanting to kind of confront it with this person. I remember I told a story ages and ages ago, back in like, maybe it would have been in like first 10 episodes of this podcast, and I got a message completely out of the blue of a guy at school in Australia who really like bullied me pretty severely, and the closure I sought from that, I didn't need it, but he just sent me a message, and I felt way better. So I'm wondering whether is there some way, if meeting this person in person is too much of an ask, is there something you could do that maybe put your feelings down onto paper, not even and maybe that's not even to necessarily to show to anybody else. I find it really helpful if there's loads of stuff knocking around my head, especially emotionally, when you put things onto paper. I find it easier to rationalize them, and it makes things clearer, and it also means that you haven't just got all of these things just flying around your head, which is probably like not helping the anxiety.
Totally.
That's a really good suggestion, actually. Writing a letter to this person, whether or not you plan on sending it, that might be a really good way to do it. It from what I remember from the email, correct me if I'm wrong, did the guy apologize a couple days later?
Yeah, the email reads, he texted me last night apologizing for everything when Anonymous was on a FaceTime call.
Okay, so timing of that text aside, because that, oops. But the fact that he at least recognizes that he did something that hurt you, and has tried to apologize for it, is a good sign.
They know they've done wrong, at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's good. Like, at the very least, like, this guy knows he fucked up, and like that means that if you do decide that you want to like confront him about it, you won't be blindsiding him, right? I think, I mean, hell, like I had a situation like this like 6 years ago, and it wasn't necessarily as extreme, but like there were consent lines that were blurred and like in retrospect very clear, but like at the time I had no idea, right? Yeah. And like what ended up having to happen in order to I guess reconcile that situation was that I had to like just say like, yeah, hey, I really f***ed that up, and I'm really sorry, and I didn't mean to like hurt you, and like that person had to choose to forgive, and like they didn't, and we just parted ways and never spoke again. But like that's a real thing. That's like I don't blame that person for that, because like that was like intentions aside, it was a thing to happen, and like, you know, but I think it's worth remembering that like, if this guy is at least reaching out and trying to apologize, then like, again, you do not owe him anything under any circumstances, but maybe take comfort in knowing that like he will receive it well if you do call him out on it.
Well, we're assuming that, because it may well be, if you're the kind of person, I mean, obviously I'm tarring a lot of people with the same brush here, but given that they have hurt you in such a way, without intending to, you know, we think, it's quite possible that they aren't actually apologizing, really. We often see the case with people on YouTube, for example, you know, people in the past like Alex Day or Tom Milsom or whatever, who were kind of abusive towards people and manipulative. In their apologies, they were still manipulative. You know?
Right.
So it may well be that they have reached out and apologized, but they don't. You know, they're not really apologizing.
I think it's enough from what's been said in the email. In terms of, you know, like these two people knew each other beforehand, they're friends. This thing happened. He apologized for it. There's enough there, obviously, and none of us know what the kind of the situation is like. But for me, in terms of like trying to give some kind of advice or my thoughts, for me, there's enough there to assume that there is a degree of positive intent that this guy is feeling, and there's enough there that would make me think, well, if I do choose to, as Tom says, to call him out on it and actually say, you know what, this is how I feel and this is what happened and you need to know this, he's going to be receptive to it.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
You hope so.
Yeah, exactly. You can only hope so. I think, you know, it's a nasty enough world as it is to not at least try and assume some degree of positive intent. And what's been said in this email would make me assume that there's enough there that could go, oh, you know, that actually, as I say, you don't owe him anything. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to. He doesn't need to. You don't have to accept any apologies, but you can say something, and maybe he'll think on it. He won't just read the message and go, right. "Oh, cool, we're talking again." You know, he'll.
But at the end of the day, I do think it is worth stressing that this isn't your responsibility. At the end of the day, your emotions, your well-being is the only thing that matters right now. Yeah. And if you think that you cannot. That it would significantly deteriorate your state and it isn't going to be a positive impact on you, you don't have to be a white knight that comes in and like a very special episode of a TV show and tell people that, you know, what you did was wrong. You can just be like, F you, and, you know, you're out of my life. You know, is your well-being, because as I mean, obviously we have heard Anonymous' side of the story. I think we have to go on the fact that Anonymous did nothing wrong. It reads as if Anonymous did nothing wrong, and so you kind of have to say, look, you know, you were in the right here. You know, you've been hurt. You don't owe this person anything. If it's going to be the right thing for your well-being to say "f them" and get out of, you know, just remove them from their life, that you do that.
Yeah. Also, emotional things like this, especially emotional kind of like events of this kind of nature. Often when these things happen, it takes time. Like really takes time for you to really kind of think about it and properly heal and get to a place where maybe, you know, a couple of weeks or you might feel comfortable with talking about it and being like, okay, actually, you know what, I do actually want to have this conversation with you now, but I just can't do it in the state I'm currently in. So there's nothing there's no kind of shame or nothing wrong with that being like, oh, maybe I do want to maybe at some point talk about it when I feel ready, but I'm not at that place yet, and I'm not going to apologize for not being in that place yet. That's just where I am. So
yeah, that's it. Like acknowledging for yourself that you're not there yet is, I think, the first really important step. And I think you're right that like, I think that if you need to take time for a while and figure out whether or not you actually want to like confront this person, do that. My advice in terms of like, if you get really tired of this guy like trying to talk to you, which like, you should probably be tired of this guy trying to talk to you, because it sounds like he's not getting the hint. Even just saying like, I need a break from you for a bit to process this would probably get that point across. And it sucks that you have to tell him that because he's not getting the hint, but like that might be enough to like at least get you some space to process before you need to talk to him.
Because while he's badgering you, you're not getting the space you need. And what's most important is you. That's it, really. Like, if there's anything that's still happening there that's not giving you adequate time or space to feel like comfortable again, then that's that's the most important thing.
So I feel like, on the whole, to sort of summarize what we're saying is that, basically, you don't owe them anything. We're going to try and assume some kind of positivity, and that maybe they do actually mean an apology,
or they'd be receptive to a
and they
conversation.
would be receptive, but at the end of the day, it isn't. A letter is a good suggestion, I think, and you don't, like you say, you don't even have to send it. Just writing it will be
putting your thoughts down on paper. And a lot of, if you're writing this with the intent of giving it to this person, the mere fact of you writing it and being in that space, assuming you're going to give it to that person, maybe closure enough. Like that's a big thing for you to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's your welfare that's the most important thing, I think. And you don't have to be a hero about this. There are times in life when you had to be a hero, and this isn't one of them. No. This is the time to take care of yourself. All right, Anonymous. But
I think we can all agree we're all so sorry that this is
a horrible situation.
It must have been really awful. And
thanks
for having clearly if you've spoken to counsellors and things, you've tried having these conversations. But thanks for emailing in. And maybe seeking something different. Obviously, Simon and I and Tom, we're not counsellors. This is not what we do. But hopefully, it's more like just talking to a friend and asking for advice rather than what's my next step.
And hopefully, this has encouraged other people. If this has been something that's happened to other people who may be listening or watching, perhaps this is going to help you in the situation you're in. I think it's a very brave thing to write in about this kind of thing.
And I think finally too, the thing that we always do when we get to the end of this segment, there is an anonymized, amazing section within the Wikicast Discord. There are amazing people there who have amazing conversations. They're incredibly supportive. Even just sitting there and listening to other people talk and knowing that there are other people who've also emailed in and have been going through a bit of a shitty time, just to be there and watch those conversations happen. You don't have to necessarily get involved with them, but they're an amazing group of really, really caring, lovely people. So they'd always be there as well. We're here as well, but we're only here once every Saturday. Even then, if we're not too busy. But,
and even then, we're not qualified.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Anonymous, we're very sorry it happened to you, but hopefully this kind of discussion, hopefully we've been of some use. Even if it's just to say, F*** you, the person who did this to you. You sound like a prick.
Yeah. Take comfort in knowing that, like, you are loved and that you have support, and that, like, at the end of the day, you are the one whose feelings matter most in this situation. And, like, the only like practical advice I have is take care of yourself, and, like, if that means completely cutting this guy off, do it. If it means being gentle about that, do that. But make sure that whatever you're doing feels right in your heart and feels like the right thing.
Time for a group hug in the Twitch chat.
Here you go. Press H for hug.
Press H for hug. And cue the clopping noises. Because I think it's time that we went on to some other emails.
There we go. Amazing.
Like professionals.
So we're back in correspondence corner now.
Whoa! Then, Ellie.
Easy.
Slow up my horse there.
We have an email here.
Tom's lagging behind. Wait a minute. Here he comes.
Whee! That's the sound I make when I ride horses.
We have an email from the one, the only Emma Kavanagh. Which, incidentally, Emma, I met one of your friends who's at Homerton College today, and he told me to say hi from you, and I told him to say hi from me back to you. So that was really nice. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, she goes on to say, Dear Simon and Dan, after what seems like a very long time since I last emailed with my Italian pronunciation test, which was, by the way, hilarious, here I am emailing in again. I've been a top lad of the Wikicast for some months now, and the acknowledgments section of the podcast always makes me laugh, usually in a public place, which is quite inconvenient. In recent months, there have been some fairly major developments in my life, namely that I'll be finishing my MA in Nottingham and starting a DPhil in musicology at Oxford in October. Oh! Amazing. Very exciting. Well done. While I'm fully funded, my stipend means that money will be likely quite tight for the next 3 years, so I'm cutting some of my outgoings in order to make budgeting easier. It is with a heavy heart then that I have realised that I must cancel my monthly donation to the Wikicast Patreon. Believe me, I cancelled my Netflix subscription before this. It's serious.
Oh my god. How on earth are we more valuable to you than Netflix?
I mean, you've made the wrong choice. Get that Netflix back. You'll need it.
First of all, you're saying that you want to do a PhD, and then you cancel your Netflix.
Yeah, you're doing a PhD and you want to listen to this podcast.
Out of your mind.
Hero.
Emma, you're out of your mind.
She wraps up by saying, I've no doubt that you'll both continue to make awesome content, still holding out for the second installment of Kerbal Space Program. The first one was so funny, and I'll certainly continue being a big fan. If you ever want to do a musicology special, you know where to find me. Lots of love. Emma Kavanagh, 23.225 years of age. Sorry, just had to troll.
Decimal heresy. It's been a while since we... How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Wow.
Emma, that's completely fine. I mean,
It's okay.
What you've got lined up in the next couple of years sounds absolutely amazing. The support that you have given us is absolutely fantastic, and it came at such an amazing time where as a podcast we were really trying to kind of get ourselves off our feet. So those initial kind of sponsors were just fantastic. But congratulations on the musicology, DPhil, and the Kerbal Space Program stuff. Is there still some stuff in
there? There is still some stuff.
Well,
it's just as well that you like that.
Maybe that could be a happy little surprise for Emma when she starts.
Tap tap tap. On the W key. Keep going up, Daniel. Tap tap tap.
No, it was lovely to hear from you. It was nice to meet your friend too. Good luck with Oxford.
You ungrateful. No. Next up, we have an email from Tapio Kokinen. Subject line: Unbearding the beard.
Whoa.
Had editing work. Dear Missisant Mark and Claw. Oh, I see. It's like how no is yesant.
Oh, right.
But Missisant.
Yeah.
Like
I don't like that.
Cool.
That's terrible. It's your tourist reader, Tapio Kirkinen here, writing once again. As Simon already knows, I'm also the lunatic controlled by Simon's old thesis beard. So, Tom, this is the guy who controls the my beard's fan account on Twitter, which was a very bizarre day when that cropped up. I was like, we've made it. The Wikicast has finally made it. So, absolute madness. I'd like to thoroughly apologise, Tapio writes, for everything the beard has released so far. Some of it has been amazing. It's got to be said, like your remixes are... Mwah.
Yeah, that's true, actually. They're fantastic.
Since my last email, I finished my bachelor's in mathematics. Congrats.
Woo! Well done.
And I've decided to apply for a job as a teaching assistant over the summer. I'm happy to report that I got in, and in addition got picked up to start a master's thesis about the links between between the normalised p-parabolic equation and the heat equation. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's my
one.
second favourite, actually.
I'm by far the most qualified person here, and even I'm not quite sure what that link is. Apparently, you continue. I have no prior experience in anything related to PDEs, weak solutions, or viscosity theory, which are all needed to even approach this topic, so I have a lot of stuff to learn. Me too, Tapio, to even understand what you're doing. I've been studying these when I have time off from other work for over a month now, but I don't even understand what my thesis is really about. So, you actually have sort of some questions. We'll kick off with you, Dan, because I've just talked for a bit. Dan, and feel free to chip in on this, Tom. Do you have any tips on how to build a good reading habit? I assume you're quite an avid reader, and I used to read a lot back in the day, but now with uni and hobbies taking up most of my time, I've been struggling to get back into the habit. I keep buying more books when I hear about them, and my to-be-read pile is growing out of control. How do you keep on top of your reading, Dan?
Well, I do 2 readings. I have to do the readings for my degree, and I have to do the readings to keep functioning as a human being. My degree readings I usually just end up smashing out within we have Exeter has a reading week midway through the term, and in Freshers Week is probably a good time to kind of smash out a load of the kind of the bigger stuff. I make it a point to never read like a scholarly book or something that I have to read for my degree unless I'm really enjoying it before bed, because then I can keep that time as I can read something for fun. But equally, if you've been doing a load of reading in the day, the last thing I want to do is then pick up a different book, no matter how interesting it is. I would say, if you're someone who struggles with sleeping, reading is brilliant. Like if even just like 15 minutes of a book before bed, and you'll find it so much easier to doze off. Namely because you're not looking at a screen, but also it's just, I think it's really conducive to getting into the mind space of kind of sleep. If you're trying to keep up your reading habits, or you're trying to encourage better habits, it's first important to kind of like recognize where you're starting from. So if you know that you're like a pretty decent reader anyway, but you find you can easily go kind of days and days just because you're doing other stuff and you forget, maybe trying to put some form of vaguely scheduled time in, like just 15 minutes before bed. Otherwise, there are some amazing lists online of kind of like books you absolutely should read, or if I'm at I'm at this stage of my life, what books should I be reading? John Green has got some amazing lists. Incidentally, also his books are really good too. I think the best thing to do is little and often, rather than don't feel obliged to sit down and be like, right, I'm going to read for an hour, because not everybody wants to read for an hour. As an English and classicist, I just read for my degree, so I can sit down and read for as long as I like, really. But 10-15 minutes every day, and then you'll probably find that actually especially if you get into a book you really like, you can easily do maybe half an hour or 40 minutes. But yeah, little and often, rather than trying to think, oh, I'm not going to pick one up now because I don't have enough time. There's always time to pick up something, even if it's just on my shelf. I keep like a couple of anthologies of different like poetry, just because you could read those for a couple of minutes. The poems are usually pretty short, especially the more kind of contemporary ones. And then at least you're getting in your little time of day where you said you do some reading. But yeah, little and often, I would say.
I mean, what do you do, Tom? Are you a reader?
Oh, I'm not as much of a reader as I used to be. Yeah, no, I barely ever find time to read. Or that's not true. I barely ever make time to read, honestly. But I am a person who is very good at efficiently planning ways to do tasks. So here is my advice for you as a person who is trying to do the task of reading a little bit more often. Put a Post-it note on your desk, assuming you regularly sit at the same desk. If you don't, put a Post-it note, I don't know, next to your bed or something, that you will see every time that you like sit down at that place. On that Post-it note, I want you to write, read one chapter. Now I want you to do that with another Post-it note for every single chapter of the book you are currently trying to get through. Cover your in Post-it notes. You do not get to remove those Post-it notes until you have read a chapter.
That's a good technique.
I find having Post-it notes all over my workspace is a really great way to motivate me to do the things that are on those notes. Because if I don't, my space is really cluttered and overwhelming. You could, if you're trying to like make time for it, and you're already a person who watches a lot of Netflix, maybe you're binge watching Frasier, for instance. Every time you're about to watch Frasier, if you know you're going to settle in and watch like a few episodes, spend 22 minutes reading a chapter of a book before you spend 22 minutes watching the next episode of Frasier. Do little things like that to like force yourself to read, and then you'll get into the habit of actually. Do you tend to wanting to?
Do you read before bed?
If I read, it's usually in the evenings. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean I totally agree with Dan. I find that when I'm like it slows my brain down, especially if you're used to watching stuff. You're used to, especially YouTube is quite like high octane. Yeah, it is. It slows me down, and it definitely makes me sleepy. But like, it also depends on what you're reading. Because like, I was reading a Warhammer book, and then I was reading the book about how machine learning works, and one of those definitely makes you want to sleep, like because you're enjoying it. The other one makes you just makes you confused. So
the Warhammer one makes you confused.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like this doesn't fit in with the lore at all. But to be fair, there are quite a few chronological inconsistencies with the Dan Abnett's writing, specifically with the Gaunt's Ghost series. But there we go.
That's the nerdiest thing you've said all episode. Congratulations.
Yeah, okay, ding, ding, ding. Yep. Mark that one off on the Wikicast bingo. But yeah, because I was the same, actually. I read loads when I was a kid, and then fell out of it so much at university because I just didn't have time. And now I'm getting back into it. Like another thing that I'd suggest is set yourself a challenge on Goodreads. If you get a Goodreads account, and you can like add friends and whatnot, and you can set yourself a challenge to read a certain number of books in a year, and then it says like if you're ahead or behind schedule, depending on how many you've said you've read. And that's been quite motivating for me, actually. That's because I'm trying to read 25 this year. That's worked for me. I'll say that. But I like the Post-it note idea. I might steal that.
I think that's really cool. I had no idea Goodreads had that feature. That's
yeah,
really
you
neat.
can definitely do it at the start of the year. I don't know if you could do it like in midway through the year. I'd be surprised if you couldn't.
I mean, presumably, yeah.
But yeah, I just like Goodreads generally. I generally find that if I go for a social network, a social website, for anything that I do, it will make me want to do better at that thing. So I have Strava for running, because it's like a social thing, and you see what your friends are doing, and you're like, wait, I've got to go running. I want people to know that I am trying. And similarly with Goodreads, like if people add me, then people are like, wait, he hasn't read a book in 3 months. What's going on? And then you'd be like, I'm reading Ulysses. Go away. But yeah, So the other question in that email was, Simon specifically, do you have any tips on approaching a completely fresh research topic? Bloody hell. I don't want to spend all my time going through the needed courses, as I'll take them. Oh, I see. Right. So you want to get ahead of the courses.
What you need to do is you need to take a post-it note. You need to
and then write the plot for a film about a horse that leaves the city. Can you make it fit on a post-it note?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. With I mean, I feel like get the supervisor to give you a reading list. And like you say, you don't want to bother them with menial questions. I would say get them to give you the key papers, the key sections of chapters and textbooks, because they will know this stuff. They will know what to recommend. They've done this before, and use their expertise. And then from there, it's over to you. But I feel like get all the information from them as soon, like immediately, and then you have a reading list that you can work from, and then you're away, basically. To quote that, I think it's Red Leader in A New Hope. It's away.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Negative. It just impacted on the surface. Dan, would you like to read an email?
Sure. Let's read another email.
It's far away.
It sounded like the standard Minecraft,
Damage.
there.
We have an email here from James Mumford.
And Sons.
Yeah, he says, Dear Codpiece and Basket Case, I just thought I'd drop you an email because a rather worrisome thought occurred to me the other day, and I need your two.
You were laughing at me earlier for not reading out an email.
I'm sorry.
How does it taste?
Well, I mean, to be fair, actually, no.
No,
I have nothing.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's even on the same line. I wasn't even trying to read a different line.
Yep.
It occurred to me the other day, and I need your 2 pence on it. You see, I'm in Japan, specifically Tokyo, and I've been for the past 3 weeks on a university summer program, and whilst here, I've come to the conclusion that it's pretty much perfect in every way. The place is littered with tradition and heritage. The language is so fun to learn. The people are profusely polite and kind. The food is to die for. I've spent most of my time outside the classroom wandering around temples and shrines, of which there are many, and gulping at the more lively areas, like Shibuya, and
Shinjuku, I think.
Yeah. I met up with my friend who's studying Japanese at Cambridge and is out here on the same program in Kyoto. He concurs it's pretty much better than back home in every conceivable way. So my question is, why should I go back home? I mean, really, what are the most, if not all, redeeming qualities of our beloved England that you could actually make a case for being enticing alternative to places like this? It's fair to say I wasn't exactly a patriot before I came out here. I've always felt an indesirable or indescribable but ever-present disdain for England. But my home, travelling to the other side of the world has done nothing but solidify that disdain. Please tell me why I should go home. A dehumanised number on screen, James Mumford.
Wow, I mean, why should you... Have you ever been to Japan, Tom?
No, I've never.
I would love to... It's one of those places that I feel like everyone says, oh, I'd love to go to Japan. I'd love to go to X, Y, Z.
I've never been. I've only ever been to Vietnam in terms of Asia.
Yeah, I've been to Malaysia, and that's it in terms of Asia, actually.
The furthest east I've ever been, I think, is Hungary.
Oh,
which is not that far.
And that was interesting, actually. Just to touch on that, because you were talking to on Twitter, weren't you, about your surname?
Yeah. Let's see if I can find that person's name so we can give them a shout out. But somebody saw you guys tweeting about talking to me, and she tweeted at me. Oh, here we go. It's Empress Salt at Nellocell tweeted at me asking if I knew the origins of my last name, and I did, and I told her that, and she said, yeah, I thought it was Hungarian. I'm Hungarian. Cool. So that was fun.
The only Hungarian person I've ever talked to online, actually. It's one of those countries that I guess, relatively small, but, you just sort of never come across. It's like the first person I ever met from Moldova, and I was like, you're the first person I've ever met from Moldova.
Congratulations.
Congrats, yeah.
I've been carrying around this badge for years.
Yeah, I would like to go to Japan. I've been watching a lot of this YouTuber called David Bull, who's a craftsman in Japan, and the Japanese woodblock printmaking has been fascinated me recently. Such an interesting art form. And actually, James has written here a list of the cultural differences. Like nobody locks their bikes up. Hentai is very accessible. Oh, these are differences. I thought that this was like a list of positives.
Yeah.
Like, because specifically, they've like, nobody locks their bikes up. One is expected, so like, people nap here all the time. People seem to have the concept of plastic conservation. Hentai is very, very accessible.
It's very easy to find cartoon porn and free bikes.
Yeah.
I mean,
what more do you need?
It's a win-win.
Why are we still here?
Yeah. Let's go.
I feel it pulling me in like a bunch of
Whoa.
tentacles.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go there.
I mean, in terms of why you should stay, I mean, if you're happy, why should you come
Well,
back?
I think you should come back to reaffirm. Actually, you know what? Come back
and be like, yeah, this place is
yeah, like come back and genuinely think about it. Like if you're having that much of an amazing time there and you're seriously considering maybe moving out, come back to England with the express purpose to go, am I really going to miss this if I go? And if not, then use that as the step to go, actually, you know what, let's do it. I think it's amazing that, especially to find such a calling and such enjoyment from a culture so vastly different to a British one. I think that's an amazing headspace to be in, and you should definitely seriously consider going if your current situation allows, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a similar country in quite a few ways to Britain, really. Like, in terms of it's an island nation on the edge of a continent. It once had kind of large territorial claims, and now is like on a kind of
but how much of that day to day is going to make a difference? Like, you don't go to Japan and go, I feel so at home here. It's an island city on the edge of a continent.
What I mean by that is like it's like it has a similar climate to the UK.
Oh, okay.
Like the geography is very different because like 80% of it is like mountains. I think.
Well, 80% of it's hentai, and the other 10% is bikes. So it's not
80% of it is that monster from Rogue One, which now you have to watch, Tom, so you know which one I mean.
Yeah.
The tentacle hentai monster. But yeah, I feel like there are certain similarities. I think a key difference is.
Language, that's a pretty big one.
I mean, the language, obviously. And actually, an interesting thing that they do say, that James says, is about the nature of the language differs depending on who you're talking to. And, like, honorifics work differently. So, like, depending on how esteemed I think you are, you could be Daniel-san or Daniel-kun or Daniel-sensei.
Yeah. It's the same for, like, not just titles. It's how the kind of way you say hello or you say how are you to a person.
And people have different personalities. Depending on who they're talking to, which I guess is an extension of the language. But like, I think the key difference I've noticed is that, based on my online experience of it, is that like nationalism is way less of a thing, it seems to be in Japan. Like tradition, conservatism, but like this whole idea that Japan #1, we're better than anyone else. Anyone who's not Japanese can go home. I know that they're like very well, as I understand it, it's quite an insular country. Like if you move there, it does take you a while, if ever, to be accepted as Japanese. But like I feel like the UK is probably more hostile to people who aren't white and from England. So that will definitely be a positive thing. I mean, I don't know. If you feel like you've discovered that this is your home, then why not? I mean, I guess there are legal reasons, right? You probably have to apply for a visa.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
This is where
you gotta legally immigrate there.
I'm gonna whip out another Chef's Table thing
Here we go.
from Netflix. There's a guy he was super famous for his ramen. He grew up in I want to say somewhere like the Bronx or something. And it turns out that he went over to Japan because he met his Japanese a girlfriend at the time, and went over and just completely fell in love with the culture. He'd never experienced it before, didn't know anything about it, but he just had this calling inside him that was like, actually, you know what, this is I'm totally into this, and this is really me. And he moved out there straight away. Like, so people do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Life's too short.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, just to give them a shout, James has written at the bottom of this email, I've only just noticed it. Pictures are on my Instagram, @_James Mumford. Shout me out, you f***s.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Wow.
The brazenness of it. I love it.
I'm going to go follow him just for that.
I'll
The
do
last
it as
time
well.
it happened, it was Lewis Watson, wasn't it? And we were like, these are really good.
I wonder if I'm already following him. What was it?
_ James Mumford.
Also, about 2 minutes ago during this recording, our fundraising campaign received a $500 donation.
Whoa!
Oh, wow.
I'm still waiting to find out what the deal was with that, but I'm excited.
Wow, congrats. So you must be pretty close to because what was the target?
Our goal is 10,000, and we're at 8,800 now.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So we're
and that's
with
after
a
the
little over
500,
a
so
week
that's
to
like
go.
a massive step up.
Yeah, we're about 1,000 away now.
That's so exciting.
And 11 days, so a little under 100 a day, I guess.
That's very doable.
No, a little over 100 a day.
Cool photos, James. Incidentally, I'm going through his Instagram. It's pretty groovy.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I'm not gonna follow him because his like 6th photo is himself in boxers lifting weights. But
yeah, I've just seen one of those actually.
That seems like the kind of thing that the guy who would say "shout me out, you f***" would do on his Instagram. I respect that.
That's a really cool one of like the. No, I always get this wrong. It's either Tory or Nori gates. You know those words gates.
Yeah.
They feature very heavily in No theatre, NOH, which I studied at my high level IB theatre course. It's a really interesting form of theatre.
Is it kabuki? Is that the name?
Kabuki's another one too.
Yeah. Okay, that's another form of theatre. I need to learn more about Japan. If someone could recommend me a good book about the Japanese culture and history, that'd be great. Right, and now I feel like to wrap up this podcast, we've teased you about it earlier. We have a fan fiction. You presumably listened to these before, Tom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I've been listening to you guys since like, I wouldn't say day one, but like a while, maybe episode 10.
I was having actually. We were just speaking of like episodes a while ago. I was having a chat with Dan in the pub back in Exeter a couple of weeks ago, and we've been going for more than a year.
Have we?
Yeah, the first episode we put out was in July.
Oh my god!
Well,
we should
like
do a
early
special.
July.
We should do a thing on the channel, like the best of.
I was saying to Dan, I was like, oh, it's going to be really cute because we'll be able to do our 1 year anniversary, and he was like, it's already done. You missed it. I was like, oh, of course it is.
We're so at this.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to do that. We'll have
a long time though.
Tell you what, why don't we put that in now? If you, dear reader, have a favourite moment from the Wikicast, if you're on the Discord, you could chat about this and then send us a big email with lots of them. Can you send us your favourite, like the timestamp and the episode, and we could do a best of, like a Game Grumps best of.
Yeah.
And we'll stitch them together and put them in a video. And maybe we could put that on my channel.
Yeah.
Then it will like hopefully introduce the podcast to people.
Yeah.
Because before we did a video that was like, we're going to do a thing. We don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
And now this time it's like, we did a thing. It's depraved as sin.
Yeah.
Come listen.
And it's actually lasted. It's still going.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Like a Viagra fed erection.
That's lovely.
Wow.
What a stunning metaphor.
Jeez.
So yeah, send in your best
Yeah.
bits, a timestamp and episode, and we'll do a thing. But anyway, well, so you've been listening for way too long for a sane person to do, Tom. So you know what's in store here. This is from the Moustache Man. This is from Cameron, saying bonjour, and that's spelled BONJORE.
Nice.
Hopefully the attachment works this time. It seems to have done. Gonna be honest, I don't really know who the guest is, so hi. Hopefully this is a good Wikicast. I think it has been.
I think it's been superb.
I think it's been
I
great.
hope so.
Also, now Tom has asked here, how does the guest feel about facial hair?
All right. Well, that's an easy one for me. On other people, I don't care. Do what you want to do. On myself, I always have it. The last time that I shaved like straight down to my skin was probably like 10 years ago.
Oh my god.
And I'm only 24, so I don't. I just use an electric trimmer and go down to stubble because my facial hair grows so fast that I might as well just do that anyway.
Yeah, me
do
too.
you wish that you could
it's a struggle.
that it was like a slow growing? It was a slow grower.
I think I wish that like I was capable of being clean shaven for more than a day at a time without it growing back. But I'm happy with how quickly it grows otherwise. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wish that it was like a couple days of like clean every time I shave, and then like a mountain immediately. As opposed to just like, if I shave, then by like tonight, I'm going to be like prickly again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to say the reason that Cameron's asked this is because he does have, I think, the best moustache
He's got a very strong moustache.
I've ever met in person.
Especially for his age too. He's an undergrad, isn't he?
He's just done first year, I think. Yeah, that should be that's a picture. Oh, it's there you go. It's linked. That's his moustache.
Where did you send it to?
The Gmail. Oh yeah, there's a chat in there.
There's a chat in this?
Apparently there is, yeah. But yeah, I just emailed it to you.
It's the most roundabout way to send me a tweet.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was talking about this being like, yeah.
It didn't. Oh, wait. Here we go. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Nice.
That's a strong mustache. I approve.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Like,
beautiful
it's one of those
beast.
people that you think why does moustache wax exist?
Yeah.
Really? And then you see that and you think,
what I like about his now is that he's getting the really kind of Dali-esque points, which is really cool. Or like the hands of a clock, you know.
Yeah, like Cogworth. Cameron Cogworth. It's got a ring to it. Anyway, so after that tangent, quick note, going to see Weren't You a Doctor Yet live on Friday. Hope you enjoy it. I'm sure Alex is going to be just as acerbic in person as he is on the podcast. But Wikicast is still superior, so nice to know where your loyalties lie.
Woo!
Right, let's strap in, shall we?
Yep.
It's going to be a bumpy ride. I've got to find some music for this because it's time for the virtual adventures of Simon and Dan, a fan fiction story. Sorry, there's a hyphen in there somewhere.
Of course. Now, do you want me to read along with you guys, or are you good to cover that yourselves? What's your plan?
I don't know.
We've always read these out ourselves. Haven't
Yeah.
we?
Cool.
The last ones we did, we would read our own lines of dialogue,
Okay.
but I can't really be bothered.
Well, actually, that's the point.
Why don't you do it?
could do our voices, and you could read out the narration.
Oh yeah,
that
that'd
would be
cool.
super fun.
Yeah, let's do that.
Warm up my reading voice.
Oh, I remember this one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really good.
Now, this is the story. We've had 3 chapters of this before, where we play video games together. And in the first one, it was like a sci-fi thing, and then it was a Warhammer thing, and we left off as we'd just been ambushed by some orcs in this VR Warhammer adventure. And I had a West Country accent, and you had a Aussie accent, didn't you? I think we did like caricatures of our own
Was that a different?
No, that was this one, I
Are you
think.
sure? No, because I'm thinking of the things of magic, the rivers of the winds of magic.
Oh, the one that David wrote.
yeah, that was
in.
amazing.
Yeah, that was fantastic. David,
Okay.
do get back to us on that
Please, that was so
one.
good.
Basically, Tom's going to do the narration as if it's like an audiobook. This is so exciting, by the way. I'm genuinely really excited. Tom's going to do the narration, and then we're going to fill in our voices. And perhaps if there are like third parties that come in that aren't the two of us who need to talk, we'll just take it in turns.
Cool.
So here we go. This is the virtual adventures of Simon and Dan hyphen a fan fiction story, chapter 4.
Simon continued to rampage forward toward the orc camp.
I love this already. Sorry.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Oh,
I'm
man.
really enjoying myself.
I already know when this episode comes out, I'm going to download it and just skip to this bit, just
Yeah.
so I can go to sleep listening to Tom's
We're
voice.
in our own audiobook.
Yeah, it's
this
good.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to do this for all of these in the future. Okay, right. Sorry, as you were, Tom.
All right, let's do this. Let's get serious, guys. Simon continued to rampage forward toward the orc camp. He never did care about his self-preservation. It was a video game, after all. Besides, if he did happen to get seriously injured, his good friend Dan would be there to heal him right back up.
I doubt that very much.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Simon suddenly found a large ballista bolt heading straight toward him. He nimbly stepped to the side and with his outstretched arm caught the bolt in midair.
Yes.
He took a moment to admire the exquisite handiwork that was far beyond the capabilities of an orc, before hurling it back towards its owners like a javelin. The bolt managed to skewer 2 orcs and pin them against the ramparts behind them.
So that sounds like the kind of thing I would do. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's true.
Also, tying back to the fact that we had a Roman at the start of the episode.
Perfect.
And a ballista bolt.
Yeah, I like it.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Full circle.
Dan looked on in sheer amazement before beginning his earthquake ritual. He closed his eyes, kneeled, placed his palms on the ground, and sent a thunderous shockwave through the earth, which caused much of the camp structures to crumble.
That was bound to kill off some of the orcs.
He thought to himself. He then rose back to his feet and threw his hands toward the cast thunderbolt. Thunderbolt. My God, I'm going to take that sentence again. He then rose... Sorry.
I heard that as he then rose back to his feet and threw his hand forward to cast Thunderbolt. Cast Thunderbolt!
Let's try that again. He then rose back to his feet and threw his hands forward to cast Thunderbolt. The lightning struck a group of orcs that had been making their way out of the entrance to the camp. It chained between them as their bodies began to spasm uncontrollably before dropping to the ground.
Sorry, Dan
lifelessly.
just acted that out. So just so you know, even though this is a podcast, we are doing our own actions to this.
Yeah.
So we both just... Perhaps we could do sound design. Whilst this is all happening, we could do the sound effects.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, why not?
Right, let's this is
All right.
so much fun! Okay.
Simon had made it to the corpses at the entrance with only a small number of arrows jutting out of the joints in his armor. Only one had grazed his neck, so for all intents and purposes, he was still in much better shape than the band of orcs was about to be. He smashed open the log gate with a magnificent swing of his warhammer. A few orcs that had been tasked with holding the... And, oh boy, that's a sentence. He smashed open the log gate with a magnificent swing of his warhammer. A few orcs that had been tasked with holding the entrance began to retreat. Despite his large frame, Simon was much faster than them and had a much longer reach. He took all 5 out in a pirouette-like maneuver. As we know, Simon loved to add a bit of flair to his killing.
I'm doing like a ribbon dance kind of.
Yeah.
But with
it's fancy.
But I'm just like, yes! Swing!
Dan moved closer to the orc camp now. The archers had shifted their focus toward the intruder. He took out a pair of pitons?
Pitons.
He took out a pair of pitons and used them to clamber up the 15-foot wall into the camp. When he reached the top, he unsheathed his curved ruby dagger. What? Is Dan not allowed to be a little extravagant too? And used it to silently slit a few archers' throats. As he did, he listened to the gargling of blood as they gasped for air. Unlike his friend, he would never get used to killing up close. He glanced into the center of the camp and was faced with the horror that awaited them. Surrounded by maybe 20 orcs was a 30-foot pit in which a monstrous dragon was chained up. However, this was unlike any dragon they had seen or heard about in the game before. Simon had not yet seen down into the pit.
What's in the pit? Oh, bloody dragon, I think.
Dan shouted to him and pointed toward the hole.
What? So I nearly didn't know the accent then. What do you mean, you think? Is it a bloody dragon or not?
Oh, it's bloody all right.
Dan replied, as he had noticed it was covered in blood and tissue. Apart from it...
I definitely read that as blood and tissues. Like it was bleeding, but it had like Kleenex.
Yeah.
Over the top of it. They tried to dab it down.
Oh no.
It's got a cold.
Covered in blood and tissue. Apart from it wasn't covered, Dan took a moment to observe it closer. In doing so, he noticed the dragon had been skinned alive. The blood was its own.
God.
He hopped down off the wall and began to make his way toward the dragon, but there were orcs still in his way. He now had to be careful with the spells he cast. Any hits on the dragon were bound to finish it off. He could not let that happen. He wasn't sure what else the orcs needed from the dragon, but he did know that the dragons were intelligent beasts and might be able to help them understand the orcs' plan. Simon hammered a few more roaming orcs into the ground, caved in a few more skulls, all while avoiding blows to his shins.
Oh wait, avoided the shin blows.
Avoiding them. You're fine.
Oh, that nearly hit my shins.
Ooh, my ankle.
Thank God I'm wearing these greaves.
He stopped. The only orcs left were the ones surrounding the center pit. The pair stood waiting for the orcs to leave their post. They couldn't risk the harm to the dragon. The orcs were unmoving until one stepped forward. He was clearly the leader of this band, as he wore much grander armor. Grand for an orc, anyway. He spoke in a deep, guttural growl.
The fabled duo. Come to wipe us out. I'm sure by now you've discovered that you were set up, but there's much more that you do not know. We orcs are no longer alone.
At that moment, the rest of the orcs turned inward to face the dragon, and a red ring began to encircle the ground on which he stood. Dan and Simon lunged forward to attack the chieftain, but it was too late. The orcs had completely disappeared. The pair crashed into each other and fell to the floor. They scrambled to the edge to check on the dragon. It was still there. The chains, however, were nowhere to be seen.
Oh, that's it. Oh my God, Cameron, you've teased us with that. Also, I love the fact that we barely had any dialogue to do. We basically just entirely let Tom do the narration there. That was
fun.
Well narrated, though. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
I do regret choosing that orc's voice. I got like 3 words in. I was like, I can taste blood.
You looked at me after you finished the line and you were like, no.
Yeah. I want to know what happens. What happened to the chains? The dragon, the orcs, what's going on?
I like that there's a conspiracy in, like a video game.
Yeah. We've
been played by a bunch of orcs. Or a bunch of dummies. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Well, great work, Cameron. Send in more. I want to know more. I feel like we should... this is so much fun doing it like that. We need to work on our audio design, I think. Especially listening when
somebody needs to put together like
a
a Wikicast soundboard of us making like effects. So we just have these as go-to kind of like markers.
Like, gosh. Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah.
Dan's a little bitch. Tom, to wrap everything up this week, what have we learned today? What was the article today?
Oh man, today's article was
Somebody Lucius.
What's his name?
Ignatius.
Ignatius of something.
Of Britannia Minor, otherwise known as the North.
Yeah. The North.
The North.
I should not have closed
King
that
in
tab.
Britannia Minor.
Yeah.
Oh, you closed the tab. Oh, rookie error.
I know. I thought about it as soon as I did it, and then I didn't.
You're going to have
just
to go
immediately reopen
Control
it.
H and search through the history for Wikipedia. I'll let you know that we've never had this happen to us, and the many times we've done this in the history of this podcast.
The good news is I found it quickly.
Yay.
Today we learned about Ignatius Lucillianus, who was the governor of Legatus of Britannia Inferior.
That was it. We don't really know who he is.
No, but
No.
he sounded kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We learned lots of things. We also had a lengthy conversation about
movies where late girls leave the city to go to a small town.
Yeah.
And we're going to write our own about a horse.
Oh, absolutely.
That goes from like a royal carriage horse to a little village in Britannia Minor.
Yeah. What else? There was baking shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
We had a chat about Incredibles 2. The hype around...
We don't go to movies. That was the other thing.
That was the other thing. I was going to say the hype around the new...
Gojira.
And
then also racial sensitivity when it came to should I move to Japan or not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We had a pretty troublesome crisis corner, but hopefully
that was actually
hopefully
that was a productive discussion.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't do the voice, the Texas prospective voice for the entire thing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That was almost problematic.
Tom gave some amazing advice with post-it notes, and I'm absolutely going to use that. I think that's going to work really well for me.
And you also gave some fantastic narration.
Yeah, for the
fanfiction.
Yeah, brilliant narration for a brilliant fanfiction.
Which I
Much
enjoyed
fun.
tremendously.
Yeah,
Cool.
We'll have to get people to email in a review of Tom's narrating.
Yeah, if people like it, Tom, we're going to have to get you back every
become a
week.
regular thing. You're going to have to narrate all the fan fiction.
I would have a lot of fun with that, not gonna lie.
And that's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Films involving horses leaving the city for small towns of Britannia Minor, Japanese cultural insensitivities, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
And thank you so much, Tom, for joining us on the podcast this week. It was amazing having you. We hope you've liked being here as well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was super fun.
That was awesome.
If you guys are listening and you want to hear more of me, follow me on Twitter at Tom Zalatnai, and check out all of the podcasts that I work on by going to upfordnetwork.com. That's UPFORD network.com. We're in the middle of a huge crowdfunding campaign right now to build a sound booth before my baby gets here, and we're just about 1,000 away from our goal. So if you have a couple bucks kicking around, you can go to the donation link that maybe these guys will put in the description of this thing. I don't know. And cool, yeah. And then just throw us a couple bucks to help keep podcasting alive and high quality.
If we push you over your target, you have to do the narration for all future fanfictions.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
It's an unspoken contract.
Okay, honestly, if the day that this comes out, we reach our $10,000 goal, I will make that commitment if you want it.
I think we have to.
Brilliant, right. How much have you got in your account?
Cool.
I think I've got about
Two
massive, £1,000 donations.
Well, that leaves you with one line, Tom.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, what's...
How have we not made that connection before?
I don't know. Poor form on our part.
Are you a community fan, Tom?
That's what that is. There we go.
Yeah.
It's like I recognize that from something.
Crisis corner in the morning.
You guys could do that pretty well, actually. Like,
What, crisis alert?
no, like Dan and Simon in the morning.
Yeah, it scans well.
Hang on, if I go down and you go up at the end.
Dan and Simon in the morning. Yeah, cool.
No, that's all right.
Like it. We need matching. Well, we did have matching mugs. My lovely mum, when we kind of first went down in Exeter and had a place, and Simon moved in, we had cups with our initials on them. Because she saw, it's really nice. And then I showed Simon, I was super excited, and that was when he turned around and says, "Yeah, I don't like hot drinks." And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Okay.
I mean, I didn't say it quite like that.
I mean, it was pretty much like that. The thing that I thought was unnecessary is that you just slapped it out of my hand, broke the mug, and spat on it, which is just a
Classic
bit,
Simon.
Yeah, classic Simon.